Hello there, everyone, and welcome back. I'm finally feeling, hey honey, I'm finally feeling all right. Um, Voice has recovered from being sick. I've mostly recovered from my food poisoning. Hello there, Shadow Fang. How are you doing today? I'm finally able to get back to reading Purgatorio. Um, Dante's journey through Purgatory. And oh, excuse me. So this will be his ascent to the second circle. That's good to hear that you're doing good on your day off, Shadowfang. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and start. Abreast like oxen going in a yoke, I with that heavy laden soul went on, as long as the sweet pedagogue permitted. But when he said, leave him and onward pass, for here 'tis good that with the sail and oars, as much as may be, each push on his bark. Upright, as walking wills it, I redressed my person, notwithstanding that my thoughts remained within me downcast and abashed. I had moved on, and followed willingly the footsteps of my master, and we both already showed how light of foot we were. Thank you, Shadowfang. When unto me he said, cast down thine eyes. 'Twere well for thee to alleviate the way, to look upon the bed beneath thy feet, as that some memory may exist of them. Above the buried dead their tombs in earth bear sculptured on them what they were before, whence often there we weep for them afresh, from pricking of remembrance, which alone to the compassionate doth set it spur. So saw I there, but of a better semblance, in point of artifice, with figures covered, whate'er as pathway from the mount projects. I saw that one who was created noble, more than all other creatures, down from heaven, flaming with lightnings, fall upon one side. I saw Briareus smitten by the dart, celestial, lying on the other side, heavy upon the earth by mortal frost. I saw Thymbraeus, Pallas saw, and Mars, still clad in armour round about their father, gaze at the scattered members of the giants. I saw at the foot of his great labour Nimrod, as if bewildered, looking at the people who had been proud with him in Sennaar. O Niobe, with the afflicted eyes, thee I beheld upon the pathway traced, between thy 7 and 7 children slain. O Sol, how fallen upon thy proper sword didst thou appear there lifeless in Gilboa, that felt thereafter neither rain nor dew. O mad Arachne, so I beheld thee. E'en then half spider, sat upon the shreds of fabric wrought in evil hour for thee. O Rehoboam, no more seems to threaten thine image there, but full of consternation a chariot bears it off when none pursues. Displayed moreover the adamantine pavement, how unto his own mother made Al- Alcmaeon costly appear the luckless ornament. Displayed how his own sons did throw themselves upon Sennacherib within the temple, and how he being dead they left him there. Displayed the ruin and the cruel carnage that Tomarus wrought, when she to Cyrus said, Blood didst thou thirst for, and with blood I glut thee. Displayed how routed fled the Assyrians, after the hollow furnace had been slain, and likewise the remainder of the slaughter. I saw their Troy in ashes and in caverns. O Ilion, thee how abject and debased, displayed the image that is there discerned, who o'er the pencil master was or still, that could portray the shades and traits which would cause each subtle genius to admire. Dead seemed the dead, and living seemed alive. Better than I not who saw the truth. All that I trod upon, while bowed I went. Now wax ye proud, and on with looks uplifted, ye sons of Eve, and bow not down your faces, so that ye may behold your evil ways. More of the mount by us was now encompassed, and far more spent the circuit of the sun, than had the mind preoccupied imagined. When he who ever watchful in advance was going on began, Lift up thy head, 'tis no more time to go thus meditating. Lo there an angel who is making haste to come toward us, lo returning is from service of the day of the sixth handmaiden. With reverence thine acts and looks adorn, so that he may delight to speed us upward. Think that this day will never dawn again. I was familiar with his admonition, ever to lose no time, so on this theme he could not unto me speak covertly. Toward us came the being beautiful, vested in white, and in his countenance such as appears in Temulus' morning star. His arms he opened, and opened then his wings. Come, said he, near at hand here are the steps, and easy from henceforth is the ascent. At this announcement few are as they who come. O human creatures, born to soar aloft, why fall ye thus before a little wind? He led us on to where the rock was cleft, there smote upon my forehead with his wings, then a safe passage promised unto me. As on the right hand to ascend the mount, where seated is the church that lordeth it o'er the well-guided, above Rubicon, the bold abruptness of the ascent is broken by stairways that were made there in the age when still were safe the ledger and the stave. E'en thus attempered is the bank which falls sheer downward from the second circle there, but on this side and that the high rock grazes. As we were turning thitherward our persons, Voti pauperes spiritu, voices sang in such wise that speech could tell it not. Ah me, how different are these entrances from the infernal! For with anthems here one enters, and below with wild laments. We now were haunting up the sacred stairs, and it appeared to me by far more easy than on the plain it had appeared before. Whence I, my master, say, what heavy thing has been uplifted from me, so that hardly aught of fatigue is felt by me in walking? He answered, When the peas which have remained still on thy face almost obliterate shall wholly as the first is be erased, thy feet will be so vanquished by good will, that not alone they shall not feel fatigue, but urging up will be to them delight. Then did I even as they do who are going with something on the head to them unknown, unless the signs of others make them doubt, wherefore the hand to ascertain is helpful, and seeks and finds and doth fulfill the office which cannot be accomplished by the sight. And with the fingers of the right hand spread, I found but 6 the letters that had carved upon my temples he who bore the keys. upon beholding which my leader smiled. The second circle, the envious. We were upon the summit of the stairs, where for the second time is cut away the mountain which ascending shiveth all. There there in like manner doth the cornice bind the hill all around bout, as does the first, save that its arc more suddenly is curved. Shade is there none, nor sculpture that appears. So seems the bank, and so the road seems smooth with the livid color of the stone. If to inquire we wait for people here, I fear the peradventure too much delay will our election have. Then steadfast on the sun his eye made his right side the centre of his motion, and turned the left part of himself about. O thou sweet light, with trust in whom I enter upon this novel journey, do thou lead us, said he, as one within here should be led. Thou warmest the world, thou shinest over it. If other reason prompt not otherwise, thy rays should evermore our leaders be. As much as here is counted a mile, so much already there had we advanced, in little time by dint of ready will, and towards us there were heard to fly, albeit they were not visible, spirits uttering unto Lord's table courteous invitations. The first voice that passed onward in its flight, Venem non habent, said in accents loud, and went reiterating it behind, and ere it wholly grew inaudible, because of distance, passing another, cried, I am Orestes, and it also stayed not. Oh, said I, Father, these, what voices are they? Even as I asked, behold, love those from whom ye have had evil. And the good master said, the circle, the sin of envy, and on that are drawn from love, ashes of the scourge, the bridle of another sound. I think that thou wilt hear it, as I judge, before thou comest to the pass of pardon. But fix thine eyes athwart the air right steadfast. People thou wilt see before us sitting, each one close against the cliff is seated. Then wider at the first mine eye I looked before me, and saw shades with mantles, not from the color of the stone diverse. A little farther onward I heard a cry of Mary, a cry of Michael, Peter, and all saints. I do not think there walketh a man so hard that he burst with pity at what. For when I had approached so near to them, that manifest to me their acts became, drained was I at the eyes by heavy grief, covered with sackcloth vile they seemed to me, stained the other with his shoulder, and all of them were by the bank sustained. Thus do the blind, in want of livelihood, stand at the doors of churches, asking alms, and one upon another leans his head, so that in many such an others pity soon may arise, not only at the accent of their words, but at their aspect, which no less implores. And as unto the blind the sun comes not, so to the shades of whom just now I spake, heaven's light will not be bounteous of itself, for all their lids an iron wire transpierces, and sews them up, as to a sparhawk wise done, because it is not quiet stay. To me it seemed in past outrage, seeing the others without being seen, wherefore I turned me to my counsel sage. Well knew he what the mute one wished to say, and therefore waited not for my demand, but said, Speak, and be brief and to the point. I had Virgilius upon that side of the embarkment from which one may fall. Spy no border, 'tis in large inland, in garlanded. Upon the other side of me I had shades devout, who through the horrible seam pressed out the tears so they bathed their cheeks. To them I turned me, and, O people, certain, began I, of beholding the high light, which you desire has solely in its care. So may grace speedily dissolve the scum upon your consciences that limpidly through. Tell me, for dear, 'twill be to me and gracious, if any soul among you here is Latian, and 'twill perchance be good for him I learn it. O brother mine, each one is citizen of one true city, but thy meaning is, who may have lived in Italy. By way of answer this I seemed to hear, a little farther on than where I stood, whereat I made myself. Among the rest I saw a shade that waited. Should any one ask how, its chin lifted upward like a blind spirit, I said, who stoopest to ascend? If thou art he who did reply to me, make thyself known to me by place or name. Sienese was I, it replied, and with the others here recleanse my guilty life, weeping to him to lend himself to us. Sapient I was not, although I, Sepia, was called, and I was at another's harm, more happy far than at my own good fortune, and that thou mayest not think that I deceive thee. Here if I was as foolish as I tell thee, the arc already of my years descending. My fellow citizens, near unto Cole, were joined in battle with their adversaries. Routed were they, and turned into the bitter passes of flight, and I, the chase beholding, a joy received, unquelling by all others, so that I lifted upward my bold face, crying to God, henceforth I fear thee not, as did the blackbird at the little sunshine. Peace I desired with God at the extreme of my existence, and as yet would not my debt have been by penitence discharged, had it not been that in remembrance held me Fair Benignano in his holy prayers, who out of charity was grieved for me. But who art thou, that unto our conditions questioning goest, and hast thine eyes unbound, as I believe, and breathing dost discourse? Mine eyes, I said, yet be here ta'en from me, but for short space, for small is the offence by their being turned with. Far greater is the fear wherein suspended my soul is, of the torment underneath, for even now the load down here weighs on me. She to me, who led thee then among us, up here, if to return below thou thinkest? And I, he who is with me and speaks not, and living am I, therefore ask of me, Spirit elect, if thou wouldest have me move o'er yonder, yet my mortal feet for thee. Oh, this is such a novel thing to hear, she answered. Thy great sign it is God loves thee, therefore with prayer of thine sometimes assist. I implore, by what thou most desirest, If e'er thou treadest the soil of Tuscany, well with my kindred estate of my family, then wilt thou see among that people vain, who hope in Talamone, and will lose there more hope than in discovering the Diana, but there still more admirals will lose. 14. Who is this one who goes about our mountain, or or ever death has given him power of flight, and opened his eyes and shuts them at his will? I know not who, but know he's not alone. Ask him thyself, for thou art near to him, gently, so that he may speak. Thus the two spirits, leaning towards each other, discourse about me there on the right hand, then held supine their faces to address me. And said the one, O soul that, fastened still within the body, towards the heaven art going, for charity console us, and declare, whence comest, and who art thou? For thou makest us as much to marvel at this grace of thine, as much a thing that never yet has been. And I, through midst of Tuscany, there wanders a streamlet that is born in Valterona, and not 100 miles of course suffice it. Thereupon I do this body bring, to tell you who I am, were speech in vain, because my name as yet makes no great noise. If well thy meaning I can penetrate with intellect of mine, then answered me he who first spake, thou speakest of the Arno. And said the other to him, why concealed this one in appellation of the river, even as a man doth of things horrible? And thus the shade that questioned was of this himself acquitted. I know not, but truly 'tis fit the name of such a valley perish. For from its fountainhead, where is so pregnant the Alpine mountains, whence is cleft Perloro, that in few places it that mark surpasses, to where it yields itself in restoration of what the heaven doth of the sea dry up, whence have the rivers which goes with them. Virtue is like an enemy of wit by all, as is a serpent through misfortune of place or through bad habit that impedes them, on which account have so transformed their nature the dwellers in the miserable valley. It seems that Circe had them in her pasture, mid ugly swine of acorns, worthier than other food for human use created. It first directeth its impoverished way, curs findeth it thereafter, coming downward, more snarling than their puissance demands, and turns from them disdainfully its muzzle. It goes on falling, and the more it grows, the more it finds this maldinct and misadventurous ditch. Descended then through many a hollow gulf, it finds the foxes so replete with fraud, they fear no cunning, that many master them. Nor will I cease because another hears me, and well 'twill be for him, if still he mind him, of what a trustful spirit to me unravels. Thy grandson I behold, who doth become a hunter of those wolves upon the bank of the wild stream that terrifies them all. He sells their flesh, it being yet alive, thereafter slaughters them like ancient beeves, many of life, hymn of praise, himself of praise, departs. Blood-stained he issues from the dismal forest. He leaves it such, 1,000 years from now, in its primeval state. 'Tis not rewooded. As at the announcement of impending ills, the face of him who listens is disturbed. From whate'er side the peril seize upon him, so I beheld that other soul, which stood turned round to listen, grow disturbed and sad, when it had gathered to itself the word. The speech of one, and aspect of the other, had me desirous, which made and question mixed with prayers I made thereof. Whereat the spirit which first spake to me began with, Thou wishest I should bring me to do for thee what thou not do for me. But since God willeth that in thee shine forth such grace of his, I shall not be chary with thee. Know then that I, del Duca, am. My blood was so with envy set on fire, that if I had beheld a man make merry, thou wouldst have seen me sprinkled o'er with pallor. From my own sowing such the straw I reap. O human race, why dost thou set thy heart where interdict of partnership must be? This is Rainier, this is the boast and honour of the house of Calboli, where no one since has made himself the heir of his desert. And not alone his blood is made devoid, 'twixt Po and Mount, and seashore and the Reno, of good required for truth and for diversion. For all within these boundaries is full of venomous roots, so that too tardily by cultivation now would they diminish. Where is good Lizio, and Erigo, Manardi, Pier Traversaro, and Guido di Carpigna? Carpigna. O Romagnoli into bastards turned, when in Bologna will a Fabro rise, when in Faenza a Bernardi di Fosco, the noble scion of ignoble seed. Be not astonished, Tuscan, if I weep, when I remember with Guido da Prata, Ugolin Dazo was living with us. Frederick Tignoso and his company, the house of Traversara, and the Agstagi, and one race and the other is extinct. The dames and cavaliers, the toils and ease, that filled our souls with love and courtesy, there where the hearts have so malicious grown. O Bretinoro, why dost thou not flee, seeing that all thy family is gone, and many people not to be corrupted? Bagnacaval does well in not begetting, and ill does Castracaro and Conio worse, in taking trouble to beget such counts. Will do well the Pagani, where their devil shall have departed, but not therefore pure will testimony of them e'er remain. O Ugolin de Fantoli, secure thy name is, since no longer is awaited one who, degenerating, can obscure it. But go now, Tuscan, for it now delights me to weep far better than it does to speak, so much has our discourse my mind distressed. We were aware that those beloved souls heard us depart, Therefore, by keeping silent, they made us of our pathway confident. When we became alone by going onward, thunder, when it doth cleave the air, appeared a voice that counter to us came, exclaiming, shall slay me whosoever findeth me, and fled as the reverberation dies, if suddenly the cloud asunder bursts. As soon as hearing had a truce from this, behold another with so great a clash, that it resembled thunderings following fast. I am Aglaras, who became a stone, and then, to press myself close to the poet, I backward, and not forward, took a step. Already on all sides the air was quiet, and said he to me, that was the hard curb that ought to hold a man within his bounds. But you take it in the bait, so that the hook of the old adversary draws you to him, and hence availeth little curb or call. The heavens are calling you, and the wheel around you, displaying to you their eternal beauties, and still your eye is looking on the ground, whence he who all discerns chastises you. Canto 15. The Third Circle. As much as twixt the close of the third hour, and dawn the day appeareth of the sphere which I in fashion of a child is playing, so much it now appeared towards the night was of his course remaining to the sun. There it was evening, and 'twas midnight here, and the rays smote the middle of our faces, because by us the mount was so encircled, that straight towards the west we now were going, when I perceived my forehead overpowered beneath the splendor far more than at first, and stupor were to me the things unknown. Whereat towards the summit of my brow I raised my hands, and made myself the visor which the excessive glare diminishes. As when from off the water or a mirror the sunbeam leaps onto the opposite side, ascending upward in the selfsame measure, that it descends and deviates as far from falling on a stone in line direct, as demonstrate experiment and art. So it appeared to me that by a light refracted there before me I was smitten, on which account my sight was swift to flee. What is that, farther sweet, from which I cannot so fully screen my sight that it avail me? Said I, and seems toward us to be moving. Marvel thou not, if dazzle thee as yet the family of heaven, he answered me. An angel 'tis who comes to invite us upward. Soon will it be, that to behold these things shall not be grievous, but delightful to thee, as much as nature fashioned thee to feel. When we have reached the angel Benedict, with joyful voice he said, here, enter into stairway far less steep than are the others. We mounting were already thence departed, and Oti Misericordes was behind us sung, rejoice thou that overcomest. My master and myself, we two alone, were going upward, and I thought in going some profit to acquire from words of his. And I to him directed me, thus asking, what did the spirit of Ramanga mean, mentioning interdict and partnership? Whence he to me, of his own greatest failing, he knows the harm, and therefore wonder not if he reprove us, that we less may rue it, because are there pointed your desires, whereby companionship each share is lessened. Envy doth ply the bellows of your sighs. But if the love of the supernal sphere should upwardly direct your aspiration, there should not be that fear within your breast. For there, as much as more as one says our, so much the more of good each one possesses, and more of charity in that cloister burns. I am more hungering to be satisfied, I said, than if I had before been silent, and more of doubt within my mind I gather. How can it be, that boon distributed, the more possessors can more wealthy make, therein, that if by few it be possessed? And he to me, because thou fixest still thy mind entirely upon earthly things, thou pluckest darkness from the very light. That goodness infinite and ineffable, which is above there, runneth into love, as to a lucid body becomes the sunbeam. So much it gives itself as it finds ardor, so that, as far as charity extends, o'er it increases the external valor. And the more people thitherward aspire, more are there to love well, and more they love thee, and as a mirror one reflects the other. And if my reasoning appease thee not, thou shalt see Beatrice, and she will fully take from thee this and every other longing. Endeavor then, that soon may be extinct, as are the two already, the 5 wounds, that close themselves again by being painful. Even as I wished to say, thou dost appease me, I saw that I had reached another circle, so that my eager eyes made me keep silence. There it appeared to me that in a vision, ecstatic on a sudden I was rapt, and in a temple many persons saw, and at the door a woman, with the sweet behaviour of a mother, saying, Son, why in this manner hast thou dealt with us? Lo, sorrowing, thy father and myself were seeking for thee. And as here she ceased, that which appeared at first had disappeared. Then I beheld another, with those waters, adown her cheeks, which grief distills, whenever from great disdain of others is born, and saying, If of that city thou art Lord, for whose name was such strife among the gods, and whence doth every science scintillate, avenge thyself on those audacious arms that clasped our daughter, O Pisistratus. And the Lord seemed to me benign and mild, to answer her with aspect temperate. What shall we do to those who wish us ill, if he who loves us be by us condemned? Then saw I people hot in fire of wrath, with stones a young man slaying, clamorously, still crying to each other, Kill him, kill him. And him I saw bow down, because of death that weighed already on him, to the earth, but his eyes made ever gates to heaven, imploring the high Lord, in so great strife, that he would pardon those his persecutors, with such an aspect as unlocks compassion. Soon as my soul had outwardly returned to things external to it which are true, did I my not false errors recognize? My leader, who could see me bear myself, like to a man that rouses him from sleep, exclaimed, What ails thee, that thou canst not stand, but hast been coming more than half a league, veiling thine eyes, and with thine legs entangled, in guise of one whom wine or sleep subdues? O my sweet father, if thou listen to me, I, I'll tell thee, said I, what appeared to me when thus from me my 8 legs were taken away. And he, if thou shouldest have 100 masks upon thy face, from me would not be shut thy agitations, howsoever small. What thou hast seen was that thou mayest not fail to up thy heart unto the waters of peace, which from the eternal fountain are diffused. I did not ask, what ails thee, as he does who only looketh with the eyes that see not, when of the soul bereft the body lies, but ask it to give vigor to thy feet. Thus must we needs urge on the sluggards, slow to use their wakefulness when it returns. We pass along athwart the twilight, peering forward as far as ever eye could stretch against the sunbeams, serotonin and lucent, and lo, by slow degrees, a smoke approached in our direction, sombre as the night, nor was there place to hide one's self therefrom. This our eyes and the pure air bereft us. Canto 16. Darkness of hell, and of a night deprived, of every planet under a poor sky, as much as may be tenebrous with cloud, ne'er made unto my sight so thick a veil, as did the smoke which there enveloped us, nor to the feeling of so rough a texture, for not an eye it suffered to stay open, whereat mine escort, Faith and Sagacious, drew near to me, and offered me his shoulder, and as a blind man goes behind his guide, lest he should wander, or should strike against aught that may harm or peradventure kill him, so went I through the bitter and foul air, listening unto my leader, who said only, Look that be from me thou be not separated. Voices I heard, and every one appeared to supplicate for peace and misericord, the Lamb of God who takes away our sins. Still, Agnus Dei, their exordium was, one word there was in all, and Mitre one, so that all harmony appeared among them. Master, I said, are spirits those I hear? And he to me, Thou apprehendest truly, and they the knot of anger go unloosing. Now who art thou that cleverest through our smoke, and art discoursing of us even as though thou didst by calends still divide the time? After this manner by a voice was spoken, whereon my master said, Do thou reply, and ask if on this side the way go upward. And I, O creature that dost cleanse thyself, to return beautiful to him who made thee, thou shalt hear marvels if thou follow me. Thee I will follow, far as is allowed me, he answered, and if smoke prevent our seeing, hearing shall keep us joined instead thereof. Thereon began I, with that swathing band which death unwindeth, am I going upward, and hither came I through the infernal anguish. And if God in his grace has me enfolded, so that he wills that I behold his court, by method wholly out of modern usage, conceal not from me who ere death thou wast, but tell it me, and tell me if I go right for the pass, and be thy words our escort. Lombard was I, and I was Marco called. The world I knew, and loved that excellence, at which has each one now unbent his bow. For mounting upward thou art going right. Thus he made answer, and subjoined, I pray thee, to pray for me when thou shalt be above. Excuse me. I need to take a drink. And I to him, my faith I pledge thee, to do what thou dost ask me, but I am bursting inly with doubt, unless I rid me of it. First it was simple, and is now made double, by thou opinion, which makes certain to me, here and elsewhere, that which I couple with it. The world, forsooth, is utterly deserted by every virtue, as thou tellest me, and with iniquity is big and covered. But I beseech thee point me out the cause, that I may see it, and to others show it. For one in the heavens, and here below one puts it. A sigh profound, that grief forced into I. He first sent forth, and then began he, Brother, the world is blind, and sooth thou comest from it. Ye who are living, every cause refer still upward to the heavens, as if all things there of necessity moved with themselves. If this were so, and you would be destroyed, free will, nor any justice would there be in having joy for good, or grief for evil. The heavens your movements do initiate. I say not all, but granting that I say it, light has been given you for good and evil, and free volition, which, if some fatigue, in the first battles with the heavens it suffers, afterward conquers all, if well 'tis nurtured. To greatest force, and to a better nature, though free, ye subject are, and that creates in the mind, and that creates the mind in you, the heavens have not in charge. Hence, if the present world doth go astray, in you the cause is, be it sought in you, that I therein will now be thy true spy. Forth from the hand of him who fondles it before it is, like to a little girl weeping and laughing in her childish sport, issues the simple soul that nothing knows, save that, proceeding from a joyous Maker, gladly it turns that which gives it pleasure. Of trivial good, at first it tastes the savour, it is cheated by it, and runs after it, if guide or rein not turn aside its love. Hence it behooves law for a rein to place, behooved a king to have, who at the least of the true city should discern the tower. The laws exist, but who sets hand to them? No one, because the shepherd who precedes can ruminate, but cleaveth not the hoof. Wherefore the people that perceives its guide strike only at the good for which it it hankers, feeds upon that, and farther seeketh not. Clearly canst thou perceive that evil guidance, the cause is that it has made the world depraved, and not the nature is corrupt in you. Rome, that reformed the world, a custom was two sons to have, which one rode and the other, of God and of the world made manifest. One has the other quenched, and to the cuirassier the sword is rejoined, and ill beseemeth it that by main force one with the other go, because being joined, one feareth not the other. If thou believe not, think upon the grain, for by its seed each herb is recognized. And the land lived by Po and Adig, valor and courtesy used to be found, before that Frederick had his controversy. Now insecurity can pass that way. Whoever will abstain through sense of shame from speaking with the good or drawing near them. True, 3 old men are left, in whom upbraids the ancient age, the ancient age the new, and late they deem it that God restores them to the better life. Corrado de Palazzo and good Gerardo and Guido da Castel, who better named is, in fashion of the French, the simple Lombard. Say thou henceforth that the Church of Rome, confounding in itself 2 governments, falls in the mire and soils itself and burden. O Marco mine, I said, thou reasonest well, and now discern I why the sons of Levi have been excluded from the heritage. But what Gerardo is it who, as sample of a lost race, thou sayest has remained in reprobation of the barbarous age? Either thy speech deceives me, or it tempts me, he answered me, for speaking Tuscan tempted me. It seems of good Gerardo, not thou knowest. By other surname do I not know him, or do I know him not, unless I take it from his daughter Gaia. May God be with you, for I come no farther. Behold the dawn, that through the smoke rays out, already whitening, and I must depart. Yonder the angel is, ere he appear. Thus did he speak, and would go no farther hear me. Canto 17, 4th Circle. Remember, reader, if e'er in the Alps a mist o'ertook thee, through which thou couldst see not otherwise than through its membrane mole, how when the vapors, humid and condensed, begin to dissipate themselves, the sphere of the sun feebly enters in among them, and thy imagination will be swift in coming to perceive how I resaw the sun at first, that was already setting. Thus to the faithful footsteps of my master, matting mine own, I issued from that cloud, to raise already dead on the low shores. O thou imagination, that dost steal us so from without sometimes, that man perceives not, although around many sound 1,000 trumpets. Who moveth thee, if sense impel thee not? Moves thee a light, which in the heaven takes form, by self or by will that downward guides it, of her impiety, who changed her form into the bird that most delights in singing. In my imagining appeared the trace, and hereupon my mind was so withdrawn, not within itself, that from without there came nothing that when might be received by it. Then reigned within my lofty fantasy one crucified, disdainful and furious in countenance, and even thus was dying. Around him were the great Asuras, Esther his wife, and the just Mordecai, who was in word and action so entire. And even as this image burst asunder of its own self, in fashion of a bubble, in which the water it was made of fails, there rose up in my vision a young maiden, bitterly weeping, and she said, O Queen, Why hast thou wished in anger to be not? Thou slain thyself, Lavinia, not to lose. Now hast thou lost me. I am she who mourns, mother, at thine error, at another's ruin. As sleep is broken, where upon a sudden a new light strikes in upon the eyelids closed, and broken quivers ere it dieth wholly. So this imagining of mine fell down, as soon as the effulgence smote my face, greater by far than what is in our wont. I turned me round to see where I might be, when said a voice, Here is the passage up, which from all other purposes removed me, and made my wish so full of eagerness to look and see who was it that was speaking. It never rests till meeting face to face, but as before the sun which quells the sight, and in its own excess its figure veils, even so my power was insufficient here. This is a spirit divine, who in the way of going up directs us without asking, and who with his own light himself conceals. He does with us as man doth with himself, for he who sees the need and waits the asking malignly leans already towards denial. Accord we now our feet to such inviting. Let us make haste to mount ere it grow dark, for then we could not till dawn day return. Thus my conductor said, and I he, together turned our footsteps to a stairway. And I, as soon as the first step I reached, near me perceived a motion as of wings, and fanning in the face, and saying, Voti pacifici, who are without ill anger. Already over us were so uplifted the latest sunbeams which the night pursues, that upon many sides the stars appeared. O manhood mine, why dost thou vanish so? I said within myself, for I perceived the vigor of my legs was put in truce. We are at the point where no more ascends the stairway upward, and were motionless, even as a ship which at the shore arrives. And I gave heed a little, if I might hear aught whatsoever in the circle new. Then to my master turned me round and said, Say, my sweet father, what delinquency is purged here in this circle where we are? Although our feet may pause, pause not thy speech. And he to me, the love of good, remiss in what it should have done, is here restored, here plied again the ill-bleeded oar, but still more openly to understand. Turn unto me thy mind, and thou shalt gather some profitable fruit from our delay. Neither creator nor creature ever, son, he began, was destitute of love, natural or spiritual, and thou knowest it. The natural was ever without error, but error the other may by evil object, or by too much, or by too little vigor, while in the first it well directed is, and in the second moderates itself. It cannot be the cause of sinful pleasure, but when to ill it turns, and, with more care, or lesser than it ought, runs after good, gainst the Creator, works his own creation. Hence thou mayest comprehend that love may be, or must be, the seed within yourselves of every virtue, and every act that merits punishment. Now inasmuch as never from the welfare of its own subject can love turn its sight, From their own hatred all things are secure, and since we cannot think of any being standing alone, nor from the first divided, of hating him, is all desire cut off. Hence if, discriminating, I judge well, the evil that one loves is of one's neighbor, and this is born in three modes in your clay. There are who, by abasement of their neighbor, hope to excel, and therefore only long that from his greatness he may be cast down. There are who power, grace, honor, and renown fear they may lose because another rises. Thence are so sad that they reverse they love. And there are those whom injury seems to chafe, and that in such them greedy for revenge, and such must needs shape out another's harm. This threefold love is wept for down below. Now of the other I will have thee hear, that runneth after good with measure faulty. Each one confusedly a good conceives, wherein the mind may rest and longeth for it. Therefore to overtake it each one strives. If languid love to look on this attract you, or in maintaining or in attaining unto it, this cornice, after just penitence, torments you for it. There's other good that does not make man happy. 'Tis not felicity, 'tis not the good essence of every good the fruit and root. The love that yields itself too much to this above us is lamented in three circles, but how tripartite it may be described. I say not that thou seek it for thyself. Canto 18. An end had put unto his reasoning. The lofty teacher attend was looking into my face, if I appeared content, and I, whom a new thirst had still goaded on, without was mute, and said within, perchance the too much questioning I make annoys him, but that a true father, who had comprehended the timid wish that opened not itself, by speaking gave me hardihood to speak, whence my sight is, master, vivified, so in thy light, that clearly I discern whate'er thy speech importeth or describes. Therefore I thee entreat, sweet father dear, to teach me love, to which thou dost refer every good action and its contrary. Direct, he said, towards me the keen eyes of intellect, and clear will be to thee the error of the blind, who would be leaders. The soul, which is created apt to love, is mobile unto everything that pleases. Soon as by pleasure she is waked to action, your apprehension from some real thing, an image draws in yourself displays it, so that it makes the soul turn unto it. And if, when turned towards it she incline, love is that inclination, it is nature, which is by pleasure bound in you anew. Even then, as the fire doth upward move, by its own form, which to ascend is born, where longest in its matters it endures, so come the captive soul into desire, which is a motion spiritual, and ne'er rests until she doth enjoy the thing beloved. Now may apparent be to thee how hidden the truth is from those people, who aver all love is in itself a laudable thing, because its matter may perchance appear, to be good, but yet not each impression is good, albeit good may be the wax. Thy words, and my sequacious intellect, I answered him, have love revealed to me, but that has made me more impregnated with doubt. If for love from without be offered us, and with another foot the soul go not, if right or wrong she go, 'tis not her merit. And he to me, what reason seeth here, myself can tell thee, beyond that await for Beatrice, since 'tis a work of faith. Every substantial form that segregate from matter is, and with it is united, specific power has in itself collected, which without act is not perceptible, nor show itself except by its effect, as life does in a plant by the green leaves. Excuse me. But still, whence cometh the intelligence of the first notions, man is ignorant, and the affection for the first allurements, which are in you as instinctual as the bee, to make its honey and its first desire. Merit of praise or blame containeth not, now that to this all others may be gathered. Innate within you is the power that counsels, and it should keep the threshold of assent. This is the principle from which is taken occasion of desert in you, according as good and guilty loves, it takes and winnows. Those who, in reasoning, to the bottom went, were of this innate liberty aware, therefore bequeathed they ethics to the world. Supposing then that from necessity springs every love that is within you kindled, within yourselves the power is to restrain it. The noble virtue Beatrice understands by the free will, and therefore see that thou bear it in mind, if she should speak of it. The moon, belated almost unto midnight, now made the stars appear as to us more rare, formed like a bucket that is all ablaze. Hey Sean, how's it going? Doing okay. Yeah, I'm doing better. I can actually eat solid foods now. Thank you for the vibe check. Excuse me. Thank you. Encounter to the heavens ran through those paths, which the sun sets aflame, when he of Rome sees it twixt Sards and Corsicans go down, and that patrician shade, for whom is named Ayatollah more than any Mantuan town, had laid aside the burden of my landing or my lading, whence I, who reason manifests and plain, in answer to my questions had received, stood like a man in drowsy reverie. But taketh from me was this drowsiness, suddenly by a people that behind our backs already had come round to us, and as of old Ismenus and Aesopus beside them saw at night the rush and throng, if but the Thebans were in need of Bacchus, so they along that circle curved their step, from what I saw of those approaching us, who by good will and righteous love are ridden. Full soon they were upon us, because running moved onward all that mighty multitude, and two in the advance cried out, lamenting. Mary in haste upon or unto the mountain ran, and Caesar, that he might subdue Ilerda, thrust at Marcellus, and ran into Spain. Quick, quick, so that the time may not be lost by little love. Forthwith the others cried, for ardor in well-do freshens grace. O folk, in whom an eager fervour now supplies perhaps delay and negligence, put by you in well-doing through lukewarmness, this one who lives, and truly I lie not, would fain go up, if but the sun relight us. So tell us where the passage nearest is. Hey, Maki. These were the words of him who was my guide. But someone of those spirits said, come on behind us, and the opening shalt thou find. So full of longing are we to move onward, that stay we cannot, therefore pardon us, if thou for churlishness or justice take. I was San Zeno's abbot at Verona, under the empire of good Barbarossa, of whom still sorrowing Milan holds discourse, and he has one foot in the grave already, who shall ere long lament that monastery, and sorry be of having there had power, because his son in his whole body sick, and worse in mine, and who was evil born, he put into the place of its true pastor. If more he said, or silent was, I know not. He had already passed so far beyond us. But this I heard, and to retain it pleased me. And he who was in every need my succor, said, turn thee hitherward. See two of them come fasting upon slothfulness their teeth. In rear of all they shouted. Sooner were the people dead to whom the sea was opened, than their inheritors the Jordan saw, and those who the fatigue did not endure unto the issue with Anchises' son, themselves to life withouten glory offered. Then when from us so separated were those shades that they no longer could be seen, within me a new thought did entrance find, whence others many and diverse were born, and so I lapsed from one into another, and in a reverie mine eyes I closed, in meditation into dream transmuted. Canto 19, the fifth circle. It was the hour when the diurnal heat no more can warm the coldness of the moon, vanquished by earth, or peradventure Saturn, when geomancers their fortuna major see in the orient before the dawn, rise by a path that long remains not dim. There came to me in dreams a stammering woman, squint in her eyes, and in her feet distorted, with hands dissevered and of a sallow hue. I looked at her, and as the sun restores the frigid members, which the night benumbs, even thus my gaze did render voluble her tongue, and made her all erect thereafter, in little while, and the lost countenance, as love desires it, so in her did colour, when in this wise she had her speech unloosed, she 'gan to sing so. With that difficulty could I have tuned my thoughts away from her. I am, she sang, I am the siren sweet, who mariners amid the main unman. So full am I of pleasantness to hear, I drew Ulysses from his wandering away unto my song, and he who dwells with me seldom departs, so wholly I content him. Her mouth was not yet closed again, before appeared a lady saintly and alert, close at my side to put her to confusion. Virgilus, O Virgilus, who is this? Sternly she said, and he was drawn near, with eyes fixed upon the modest one. She seized the other, and in front laid open, rending her garments, and her belly showed me. This waked me with the stench that issued from it. I turned mine eyes, and good Virgilus said, At last thrice have I called thee, rise and come. Find we the opening by which thou mayest enter. I rose, and full already of high day were all the circles of the sacred mountain, and with the new sun at our back we went. Following behind him, I my forehead bore, like unto one who has it laden with thought, who makes himself the half art of a bridge. When I heard say, Come, here the passage is, spoken in a manner gentle and benign, such as we hear not in this mortal region, with open wings, which of a swan appeared, upward he turned us, who thus spake to us. Between the two walls of the solid granite, he moved his pinions afterwards and fanned us, affirming those qui lugnet to be blessed, for they shall have their souls with comfort filled. What aileth thee, that I to the earth thou gazest? To me my guide began to say, we both somewhat among or beyond the angel having mounted, and I, with such misgivings, makes me go a vision new, which bends me to itself, so that I cannot from the thought withdraw me. Didst thou behold, he said, that old enchantress, whose soul above us henceforth is lamented? Didst thou behold how man is freed from her? Suffice it thee, and smite earth with thy heels. Thine eyes lift upward to the lure that whirls the eternal king with revolutions vast. Even as the hawk that first his feet surveys, then turns him to the call and stretches forward, through the desire of food that draws him thither. Such I became, and such as far as cleaves the rock to give away to him who mounts, went on to where the circling doth begin. On the fifth circle, when I came forth, people I saw upon it who were weeping, stretched prone upon the ground, all downward turned. Adhacit pavimento anima mea, I heard them say with sighs so profound that hardly could the words be understood. O ye elect of God, whose sufferings justice and hope both render less severe, direct ye us toward the high ascents. If ye are come secure from the prostration, and wish to find the way most steadily, let your right hands be evermore outside. Thus did the poets ask, and thus was answered by them somewhat in the front of us, whence I, in what was spoken, divined the rest concealed. And unto my Lord's eyes mine eyes I turned, whence he assented with a cheerful sign to what the sight of my desire implored. When of myself I could dispose at will, above that creature did I draw myself, whose words before had caused me to take note, saying, O Spirit, in whom weeping ripens, that without which to God we cannot turn, suspend a while for me thy greater care. Who wast thou, and why are your backs turned upwards? Tell me, and if thou wouldest that I procure thee anything there whence living I departed. And he to me, wherefore our backs the heaven turns to itself. Know shalt thou, but beforehand, scias quod ego fui successor Petri, between Siestri and Chiaveri descends a river beautiful, and of its name the title of my blood its summit makes. A month and a little more said I how weighs the great cloak on him from mire who keeps it, for all the other burdens seem a feather. Tardy, I woe is me, was my conversation, but when the Roman shepherd I was made, then I discovered life to be a lie. I saw that there the heart was not at rest, nor farther in that life could one ascend, whereby the love of this was kindled in me. Until that time a wretched soul, and parted from God was I, and wholly avaricious. Now, as thou seest, I am punished for it. What avarice does is here made manifest in the purgation of those souls converted, and no more bitter pain in the mountain has. Even as our eye did not uplift itself aloft, being fastened upon earthly things, so justice here has merged it in the earth. As avarice had extinguished our affection for every good whereby was action lost, so justice here doth hold us in restraint, bound and imprisoned by the feet and hands. And so long as it pleases the just Lord, shall we remain immovable and prostrate. I on my knees had fallen, and wished to speak, but even as I, and he was ware only by listening of my reverence. What cause, said he, has downward bent thee thus? And I to him, for your own dignity, standing, my conscience stung me with remorse. Straighten thy legs, and upward raise thee, brother, he answered. Ere not, fellow servant, am I with thee and with the others to one power. If e'er that holy evangelic sound, which saith, Nece nubet, thou hast heard, well canst thou see why in this wise I speak. Now go, no longer will I have thee linger, because thy say doth incommode my weeping, with which I ripen that which thou hast said. On earth I have a grandchild named Alagea, good in herself, unless indeed our house malevolent may make her by example, and she alone remains to me on earth. Canto 20. Ill strives the will against the better will, therefore to pleasure him, against my pleasure I drew the sponge not saturate from the water. Onward I moved, and onward moved my leader, through vacant places, skirting still the rock, as on a wall close to the battlements. For they that through their eyes pour drop by drop the malady which all the world pervades, on the other side too near the verge approach. Accursed mayst thou be, thou old she-wolf, that more than all the other beasts hast prey, because of hunger infinitely hollow. O heaven, in whose gyrations some appear to think conditions here below are changed, when will he come through whom she shall depart? Onward we went with footsteps slow and scarce, an eye attentive to the shades I heard, piteously weeping and bemoaning them. And I by peradventure heard sweet Mary uttered in front of us amid the weeping, even as a woman does who is in childbirth. And in continuance, how poor thou wast is manifest by the hostelry, where thou didst lay thy sacred burden down. Thereafterward I heard, O good Fabricius, virtue with poverty didst thou prefer, to the possession of great wealth and vice. Excuse me. So pleasurable were these words to me, that I drew further onward to have knowledge, touching that spirit whence they seemed to come. He furthermore was speaking of the largesse which Nicholas unto the maidens gave, in order to conduct their youth to honor. O soul that dost so excellently speak, tell me who wast thou, said I, and why only thou dost renew these praises well deserved. Not without recompense shall be thy word, if I return to finish the short journey of that life which is flying to its end. And I'll tell thee, not for any comfort I may expect from earth, but that so much grace shines in thee, or ever thou art dead. I was the root of the malignant plant which overshadows all the Christian world, so that good fruit is seldom gathered from it. But if Douay and Ghent and Lille and Bruges had power, soon vengeance would be taken on it, and this I pray of him who judges all. Hugh Capet was I called upon this earth. From me were born the Louises and Philips, by whom in later days has France been governed. I was the son of a Parisian butcher. What time the ancient kings had perished all, except, except, excepting one, contrite and cloth of grey, I found me gasping in my hands the rein of the realm's government, and so great power of new acquest, and so with friends abounding, that to be widowed diadem promoted, the head of mine own offspring was, from whom the consecrated bones of these began. So long as the great dowry of Provence out of my blood took not the sense of shame, 'twas little worth, but still it did no harm. Then it began the falsehood, and with force its rapine, and thereafter for amends took Ponthieu, Normandy, and Gascony. Charles came to Italy, and for amends a victim made of Conradin, and then thrust Thomas back to heaven for amends. A time I see, not very distant now, which draweth forth from Charles from France, the better to make known both him and his. Unarmed he goes, and only with the lance that Judas jousted with, and that he thrusts, so that he makes the paunch of Florence burst. He thence not land, but sin and infamy shall gain so much more grievous to himself, as the more light such damage he accounts. The other now gone forth, ta'en to his ship, see I his daughter sell, and chaffer for her, as corsairs do with other female slaves. And more, O avarice, canst thou do to us, since thou my blood so to thyself hast drawn. It careth not for its own proper flesh, that less may seem the future ill and past. I see the flower de luck, Alagna, enter, and Christ in his own vicar captive made. I see him yet another time derided. I see renewed that vinegar and gall, and between living thieves I see him slain. I see the modern Palladi so relentless. This does not sate him, but without decretal he to the temple bears his sordid sails. When, O my Lord, shall I be joyful made, by looking on the vengeance which, concealed, makes sweet thine anger and thy secrecy? What I was saying of the only bride of the Holy Ghost, and which occasioned thee to turn towards me for some commentary, so long has been ordained to all our prayers, as the day lasts, but when the night comes on, contrary sound we take instead thereof. At that time repent Pygmalion, of whom a traitor, thief, and parricide made his insatiable desire of gold, and the misery of avaricious Midas, that followed his inordinate demand, at which forevermore one needs but laugh. The foolish Achan each one then records, and how he stole the spoils, so that the wrath of Joshua still appears to sting him here. And when we accuse Sapphira with her husband, we load the hoofbeats Heliodorus had, and the whole mount in infamy circles. Nestor, who murders Polydorus, here finally is cried, O Crassus, tell us, for thou dost know, what is the taste of gold? Sometimes we speak, one loud, another low, according to desire of speech, that spurs us to greater now, and now to lesser pace. But in the good there here by day is talked of, erewhile alone I was not, yet nearby no other person lifted up his voice. From him already we departed were, and made endeavour to overcome the road, as much as was permitted to our power, when I perceived, like something that is falling, the mountain tremble, whence a chill seized on me, as seizes him who to his death is going. Certes so violently shook not Delos before Latona made her nest therein, to give birth to the two eyes of the heaven. Then upon all sides there began a cry, such that the master drew himself towards me, saying, Fear not, while I am guiding thee. Gloria in excelsis Deo, all were saying, from what near I comprehended, where it was possible to hear the cry. We paused immovable and in suspense, even as the shepherds, who first heard that song, until the trembling ceased, and it was finished. Then we resumed again our holy path, watching the shades that lay upon the ground, already turned to their accustomed plight. No ignorance ever with so great a strife had rendered me importunate to know, if erreth not in this my memory, as meditating then I seem to have, nor out of haste to question did I dare, nor of myself I there could aught perceive, so I went onward, timorous and thoughtful. Canto 21. The natural thirst that ne'er is satisfied, excepting with the water, for whose grace the woman of Samaria besought, put me in travail, and haste goaded me along the encumbered path behind my leader, and I was pitying the righteous vengeance. And lo, in the same manner as Luke writeth, that Christ appeared in two upon the way from the sepulchre cave already risen, a shade appeared to us, and came behind us, down gazing on the prostrate multitude, nor were we aware of it until it spake, saying, My brothers, may God give you peace. And we turned us suddenly, and Virgilius rendered to him the countersign thereto conforming. Thereon began he, in the blessed counsel, thee may the court veracious place in peace, that me doth banish in eternal exile. How, said he, and the while we went with speed, if ye are shades whom God deigns not on high, who up his stairs so far has guided you? And said my teacher, if thou note the marks which this one bears, and which the angel traces, well shalt not see he with the good must reign. But because she who spinneth day and night for him had not yet drawn the distaff off, which Clotho lays for each one and compacts, his soul, which is thy sister of my own, in coming upward could not come alone, by reason that it sees not in our fashion, whence I was drawn from out the ample throat of hell to be his guide, and I shall guide him as far as my school has power to lead. But tell us, if thou knowest, why such a shudder erewhile the mountain gave, and why together all seemed to cry as far as its moist feet? In asking, he so hit the very eye of my desire that merely with the hope my thirst became less unsatisfied. Not is there, he began, that without order may the religion of the mountain feel, nor aught that may be foreign to its custom. Free is it here from every permutation. What from itself heaven in itself receiveth can be of this the cause, and not beside. Because that neither rain nor hail nor snow nor dew nor hoarfrost any higher falls than the short little stairway of 3 steps. Dense clouds do not appear, nor rarefied, nor Corcushan, nor the daughter of Thomas, that often upon the earth her region shifts, nor arid vapor any farther arises than to the top of the 3 steps I spake of, whereon the vicar of Peter has his feet. Lower down perchance it trembles less or more, but for the wind that in the earth is hidden, I know not how, up here it never trembled. It trembles here whenever any soul feels itself pure, so that it soars or moves to mount aloft, and such a cry attends it. Of purity the will alone gives proof, which being wholly free to change its convent, takes by surprise the soul and helps it fly. First it wills well, but the desire permits not, which divine justice, with the self-same will, there was to sin upon the torment sets, and I, who have been lying in this pain 500 years and more, but just now felt a free volition for a better seat. Therefore thou heardest the earthquake, and the pious spirits along the mountain render praise unto the Lord that soon he speeds them upwards. So said he to him, and since we enjoy as much in drinking as the thirst is great, I could not say how much it did me good. And the wise leader, now I see the net that snares you here, and how ye are set free, why the earth quakes, and wherefore ye rejoice. Now who thou wast, be pleased that I may know, and why so many centuries thou hast here been lying, let me gather from thy words. In days when the good Titus, with the aid of the supremest king, avenged the wounds, whence issued forth the blood by Judas sold, under the name that most endures and honors, was I on earth, that spirit made reply, greatly renowned, but not with faith as yet. My vocal spirit was so sweet that Rome me a Tholusian drew unto himself, where I deserved to deck my brows with myrtle. Statius, the people name me still on earth. I sang of Thebes, and then of the great Achilles, but on the way fell with my second burden. The seeds unto my ardor were the sparks of the celestial flame which heated me, whereby more than 1,000 have been fired. Of the Aeneid speak I, which to me a mother was, and was my nurse in song. Without this weighed I was not drachma's weight, and to have lived upon the earth that time Vigilius lived, I would accept one son more than I must ere issuing from my ban. These words towards me made Vigilius turn with looks that in their silence said, Be silent. But yet the power that wills cannot do all things, for tears and laughter are such perseverance. Excuse me. Unto the passion from which each springs forth, in the most truthful, least the will they follow. I only smiled as one who gives the wink, whereat the shade was silent, and it grazed unto mine eyes, where most expression dwells. And as thou mayst consummate a labor so great, it said, why did thy face just now display to me the lightning of a smile? Now am I caught on this side and on that. One keeps me silent, one to speak conjures me, wherefore I sigh, and I am understood. Speak, said my master, and be not afraid of speaking, but speak out, and say to him what he demands with such solicitude. Whence thou peradventure marvellest, O antique spirit, at the smile I gave, but I will have more wonder seize upon thee. This one, who guides on high these eyes of mine, is that Virgilius, from whom thou didst learn to sing aloud of men and of the gods. If other cause thou to smile, if other cause thou to my smile imputest, abandon it as false, and trust it was those words which thou hast spoken concerning him. Already he was stooping to embrace my teacher's feet. But he said to him, Brother, do not, for shade thou art, and shade beholdest. And he, uprising, now canst thou, the sun of love which warms me, to thee comprehend, when this our vanity I disremember, treating a shadow as substantial thing. Canto 22, the sixth circle. Already was the angel left behind us, the angel who the sixth round has turned us, having erased one mark from off my face. And those who have injustice their desire had said to us, Voti, and their voices with Scythio, and without more ended it, and I, more light than through the other passes, went onward so, that without any labor I followed upward with swift-footed spirits. When then Virgilius began, the love kindled by virtue I another kindles, provided outwardly its flame appear. Hence from the hour that Juvenal descended among us into the infernal limbo, who made apparent to me thy affection, my kindliness towards thee was as great as ever bound one to an unseen person, so that these stairs will now seem short to me. But tell me, and forgive me as a friend, if too great confidence let loose the rein, and as a friend now hold discourse with me. How was it possible within thy breast, for avarice to find place, midst so much wisdom as thou wast filled with by thy diligence? These words excited Statius at first, somewhat to laughter. Afterward he answered, Each word of thine is love's dear sign to me. Verily, oftentimes do things appear which give fallishness matter to our doubts, instead of the true causes which are hidden. Thy questions show me thy belief to be that I was gonna skip that word in another life. Hello. Hey, Nell, how's it going? Hello, Raiders. Did everybody enjoy the Final Fantasy IV? Yes, it is story time. Story time is actually almost over. I'm gonna be transferring it over to Sagril to so you can play Final Fantasy XIV. I don't know if anybody wants to play with them, but how's it going, Coffee Ninja Ryu? Give me a moment. I need to blow my nose real quick. Little elephant. Therefore know thou that avarice was removed. Too far from me, in this extravagance, thousands of lunar periods have punished, and were it not that my thoughts uplifted, when I the passage heard where thou exclaimest, as if indignant unto human nature, to what impellest thou not, O cursed hunger, of gold the appetite of mortal men? Revolving, I should feel the dismal joustings. Then I perceived the hands could spread too wide, their wings in spreading, or their wings in spending, and repented me, as well of that as of my other sins. How many with shorn hair shall rise again because of ignorance, which from this sin cuts off repentance, living and in death, and know that the transgression which rebuts by direction opposite by any sin, together with it here its verdure dries. Therefore, if I have been among that folk which mourns its avarice to purify me. Sorry, I had to go check something had to go check something real quick. Ah. Therefore I have been among that folk which mourns its avarice to purify me, for its opposite has this befallen me. Now when thou sangest the relentless weapons of the twofold afflictions of Jocasta, the singer of the songs, bucolic said, from that which Clio therewith thee precludes, it does not seem that yet had made thee faithful, that faith without good, the that faith without which no good works suffice. If this be so, what candles or what sun scattered thy darkness so that thou didst trim thy sails behind the fisherman thereafter? And he to him, thou first directest me toward Parnassus, in it got grots to drink, and first concerning God didst me enlighten. Thou didst as he who walketh in the night, who bears his light behind, which helps him not, but where he makes persons after him. Sorry, I actually forgot to say that I'm reading uh, Dante's Purgatorio. Sorry about that, guys. For the raiders. When thou didst say, the age renews itself, justice returns, and man's primeval time, and a new progeny descends from heaven. Through thee I poet was, through thee a Christian, but that thou better see what I design, to colour it will I extend my hand. Already was the world in every part, pregnant with the true creed, disseminated by messengers of the eternal kingdom, and thy assertion spoke of love, with the new preachers was in unison, whence I to visit them the custom took. Then they became so holy in my sight, that when Domitian persecuted them, not without tears of mine were their laments, and all the while that I on earth remained them I befriended, and their upright customs made me disparage all the other sects. And ere I led the Greeks unto the rivers of Thebes in poverty I was baptized, but out of fear I was covertly a Christian. For a long time professing paganism, and thus lukewarmness caused me the fourth circle to circuit around more than 4 centuries. Thou therefore, who has raised the covering that hid me from whatever good I speak of, while in ascending we have time to spare. Tell me, in what place is our friend Tarentus, Caecilius, Pledis, Varro, if thou knowest? Tell me if they are damned, and in what valley, or what alley. These, Perseus, and myself, and others many, replied my leader, with that Gratian, are whom more than all the rest the Muses suckled, in the first circle of the prison blind. Oftentimes we of the mountain hold discourse, which has our nurses ever with itself. Euripides is with us, Antiphon, Simonides, Agatho, and many other Greeks of old, their brow with laurel decked. There are some of thine own people may be seen, Antigon, Delphine, or Delpho, and Argia, and there Ismen, mournful as of old. There she is seen who pointed out Langaea. There is Tarsia's daughter, and there Thetis, and there Deidamia with her sisters. I apologize, I am probably butchering some of these names. Silent already were the poets both, attent once more in looking round about, from the ascent and from the walls released, and four handmaidens of the day already were left behind, and at the pole the fifth was pointing upward still its burning horn. What time, my guide? I think that towards the edge, our dexter shoulders, it behooves us turn, circling the mount as we are wont to do. Thus in that region, custom was our ensign, and we resumed our way with less suspicion for the assenting of that worthy soul. They in advance went on, and I alone behind them, and I listened to their speech, which gave me lessons in the art of song. But soon their sweet discourses interrupted a tree which midway in the road we found, with apples sweet and grateful to the smell. And even as a fir tree tapers upward, from bough to bough, so downwardly did that, I think in order that no one might climb it. On that side where our pathway was enclosed, fell from the lofty rock a limpid water, and spread itself abroad upon the leaves. The poets twain unto the tree drew near, and from among the foliage a voice cried, Of this food ye shall have scarcity. Then said, more thoughtful Mary was of making the marriage feast complete and honorable, than of her mouth which now for you responds. And for their drink the ancient Roman women with water were content, and Daniel disparaged food, and understanding won. The primal age was beautiful as gold, acorns it made with hunger savorous, and nectar every rivulet with thirst. Honey and locusts were the aliments that fed the Baptist in the wilderness, whence he, gl- whence he is glorious and so magnified, as by the evangel is revealed to us. Okay. Ah, my hair. Sorry. I had the still on because otherwise while I'm reading I look like this the entire time. So, I'm going to hand this off to Sagrel so he can play some video games for all of you guys, and I will be reading the rest of Purgatorio next week. Honey? Okay. Sorry, my hair keeps getting caught. But how is everybody doing so far? I see some people in chat that I am have been very quiet. I am highly surprised I did not see I descend. Oh no, she's been in chat the entire time. How you doing, Anubis? You doing okay? And then we have our friend Caliber's in chat too. What? Alright, so I hit stop streaming and then you pick it up. Alright guys, so I'm gonna hit stop streaming and then Sago's gonna start streaming, so all you guys are gonna have to do is refresh, okay? So, um, I should see you guys in a few days. Alright, see ya.